Let me introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Carter, and for the past 8 years, I've been a cornerstone of this company, a place where I thought my hard work and dedication would one day be recognized. I started as an intern fresh out of college, wide-eyed and eager to prove myself in the corporate world. Over time, I climbed the ranks, earning every promotion through sheer determination and countless late nights at the office. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when self-doubt crept in, but I pushed through because I believed in what we were building here. The company, Brighton Solutions, isn't just any business. We specialize in innovative tech solutions that streamline operations for our clients, ranging from small startups to Fortune 500 giants. And within Brighton, I built something rare: trust. My colleagues relied on me, my boss respected me, and most importantly, our clients loved working with me. They knew they could count on me to deliver results while maintaining transparency and integrity. That reputation took years to cultivate, and it became more than just my job. It was part of who I was. But then everything changed. A few months ago, the board announced a new CEO, Adrian Locke. You might have heard his name before. He's one of those high-profile executives known for turning companies around. On paper, he sounded impressive. Harvard-educated, charismatic, with a track record of success at other firms. But behind closed doors, things weren't so polished. From the moment Adrian stepped into the role, he made it clear that he didn't care about relationships or loyalty. To him, everyone was expendable, including me. Adrian had a way of making people feel small. He'd walk into meetings like he owned the room, not in a confident way, but in a suffocating, overbearing manner. His sharp suits and expensive watch seemed designed to remind us all how far above us he stood. At first, I tried not to let him get under my skin. After all, I told myself, he's just adjusting to his new position. Maybe once he settled in, he'd loosen up and see the value I brought to the table. I couldn't have been more wrong. It didn't take long for Adrian to start targeting me specifically. Whether it was questioning my decisions during team meetings or dismissing my ideas without even hearing them out, he went out of his way to undermine me. The worst part, he did it publicly, often in front of colleagues or worse, clients. Each jab felt like a punch to the gut, leaving me scrambling to regain my footing while trying to maintain some semblance of professionalism. One particular incident stands out, though, because it wasn't just humiliating, it was personal. It happened during a presentation with one of our biggest clients, a multinational corporation we'd worked with for years. This client trusted us implicitly, and I'd spent weeks preparing for this meeting, ensuring every detail was perfect. But Adrian decided to swoop in at the last minute, uninvited, and take over the presentation himself. As soon as he walked into the conference room, I could feel the energy shift. His presence dominated the space, and I braced myself for whatever was coming next. Sure enough, halfway through my pitch, Adrian interrupted me mid-sentence. "Evelyn," he said, his tone dripping with condescension, "why don't you let someone with actual experience handle this?" My cheeks burned as laughter rippled through the room. Some of the junior employees stifled giggles nervously, while others avoided eye contact altogether. Even the client looked uncomfortable, shifting awkwardly in their seats. I forced a smile, pretending it didn't bother me, but inside I was crumbling. How could he do this? In front of everyone? Didn't he realize how much effort I'd put into this project? Or maybe he did, and that was the point. For a brief moment, I considered standing up for myself right then and there, telling Adrian exactly what I thought of his behavior and walking out of the room. But I couldn't. Not only would it jeopardize the account, but it would also give him the satisfaction of knowing he'd broken me. So instead, I swallowed my pride and stepped aside, letting him take over the presentation. What happened next, however, caught me completely off guard. As Adrian launched into his spiel, one of the senior representatives from the client's side raised their hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Locke," they said, their voice calm but firm. "Before you continue, I think it's important to clarify something." The entire room fell silent. Adrian paused, clearly taken aback by the interruption. "Of course," he replied, plastering on his signature fake smile. "What is it?" The representative leaned forward slightly, their gaze steady. "We've been working with Evelyn for years now, and quite frankly, she's been instrumental in helping us achieve significant growth. Her insights and strategies are unparalleled, and her commitment to our partnership has been unwavering. So forgive me if I seem confused, but why exactly are you undermining her in front of us? You could hear a pin drop. Adrian's smile faltered, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely flustered. The air in the room shifted again, but this time it was different. The tension wasn't directed at me anymore. It was aimed squarely at Adrian. I stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. Part of me wanted to jump in and smooth things over, to diffuse the situation before it escalated further. But another part of me, the part that had been silently seething for weeks, felt a flicker of vindication. For the first time, someone else saw Adrian for who he really was, a bully hiding behind a polished exterior. The client continued, their tone growing sharper with each word. We chose Brighton Solutions because of people like Evelyn. If your leadership style involves tearing down your best employees in public, then perhaps we need to reconsider whether this partnership still aligns with our values. Adrian stammered, attempting to backtrack. I assure you, that wasn't my intention. Intentions don't matter. The representative cut him off. Actions do, and yours speak volumes. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. Adrian tried to salvage the situation, but the damage was done. By the time we wrapped up, the client had made it abundantly clear that they expected better moving forward. Or else. As we left the conference room, Adrian shot me a glare filled with barely concealed rage, but I didn't care. For once, I felt a glimmer of hope. That confrontation marked the beginning of something bigger than I could have anticipated. Word spread quickly throughout the company about what had happened, and suddenly, people started looking at me differently. Colleagues who had previously stayed silent began approaching me privately, sharing their own stories of Adrian's toxic behavior. Some admitted they'd been too afraid to speak up, fearing retaliation. Others expressed admiration for how I'd handled the situation, even though I hadn't said a word. It was strange, almost surreal, to go from being Adrian's favorite target to becoming a symbol of resistance against him. I hadn't planned it that way, it just sort of happened. But as more people came forward, I realized I had a choice to make. I could either stay quiet and hope things improved on their own, or I could use this momentum to push back against Adrian's reign of intimidation. At first, the idea terrified me. Standing up to someone like Adrian meant risking everything. The respect I'd earned, the stability I'd worked so hard for, even my career itself. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep living in fear. Every time I saw another colleague crushed under Adrian's criticism or watched morale plummet across departments, I felt a growing sense of responsibility. If no one else was willing to challenge him, then maybe it had to be me. So I started small. During team meetings, I began speaking up more, offering constructive feedback and refusing to let Adrian dismiss my contributions outright. When he tried to belittle me in front of others, I responded with quiet confidence, never raising my voice but always making sure my perspective was heard. Slowly but surely, I noticed a shift, not just in how others perceived me, but in how I viewed myself. Of course, Adrian didn't take kindly to my newfound assertiveness. He doubled down on his attempts to discredit me, spreading rumors and questioning my competence to anyone who would listen. But for every lie he told, there were two truths waiting to counter it. Co-workers rallied around me, defending my work ethic and vouching for my skills. Clients continued to praise my efforts, often going out of their way to highlight my contributions during check-ins. Even some members of the executive team started paying attention, quietly observing the growing divide between Adrian's leadership style and the needs of the company. Despite the support, the battle wasn't easy. There were days when doubt crept in, whispering that maybe I should just give up and find a new job somewhere else. Days when Adrian's cutting remarks hit too close to home, leaving me drained and questioning whether I was strong enough to see this through. But then I'd remember the look on the client's face during that pivotal meeting, their unwavering belief in me, and it would reignite the fire inside. Little by little, I started gathering evidence of Adrian's misconduct. Emails, performance reviews, accounts from colleagues. All of it painted a damning picture of a leader who prioritized ego over ethics. With each piece of information I collected, I felt more empowered, like I was reclaiming control not just of my career, but of my dignity. Still, I knew I couldn't act alone. Taking down someone like Adrian required strategy, allies, and timing. And so I waited, watched, planned, because deep down, I knew the tide was turning. Adrian's facade was cracking, and sooner or later, the truth would come out. All I had to do was stay patient and ready. The waiting game was excruciating. Each day felt like a tightrope walk, balancing between Adrian's unpredictable temper and the growing whispers of dissent within the company. I knew I couldn't rush this. Timing was everything. If I made my move too soon, it could backfire spectacularly. But if I waited too long, Adrian might dig his claws even deeper into the fabric of Brighton Solutions, leaving scars that would take years to heal. I began meeting secretly with a few trusted colleagues, people who had witnessed Adrian's behavior firsthand and shared my desire for change. We called ourselves the Coalition, though we never said it aloud during our hushed conversations in empty conference rooms or late-night coffee runs. It wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. Together, we pieced together a strategy, pooling our resources and experiences to build an irrefutable case against him. One evening, after most of the office had cleared out, I sat at my desk poring over emails and documents. My phone buzzed on the corner of the desk, startling me from my thoughts. It was a text from Marcus, one of the senior developers in IT. Found something big. Meet me in room 304. My heart raced as I grabbed my laptop and headed down the hall. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows along the deserted corridors. When I reached room 304, Marcus was already there, pacing nervously. He looked up when I entered, his face pale but determined. "You're not going to believe this," he said, gesturing for me to sit. He pulled up a series of files on his screen, showing me a trail of financial discrepancies buried deep in the company's internal systems. According to the data, Adrian had been funneling funds meant for employee training programs into personal accounts under shell companies. Worse still, these transfers coincided with periods when staff morale plummeted due to budget cuts. "This is unbelievable," I whispered, scrolling through the evidence. "How did you find this?" Marcus shrugged. Adrian underestimated us. He thought no one would bother digging into the numbers because they were hidden behind layers of jargon and bureaucracy. But I've been auditing these reports since he took over, just in case. My mind reeled. This wasn't just toxic leadership, it was fraud. With proof like this, we didn't just have a chance to expose Adrian's bullying tactics, we could bring him down entirely. Still, the stakes were higher than ever. Going public with this information would put all of us at risk. Adrian wasn't the type to go quietly into the night. He'd fight back hard. And if he found out what we were planning before we acted, none of us would be safe. "We need to involve HR," I said, finally looking at Marcus. "They have protocols for handling situations like this. If we present them with concrete evidence, they'll have no choice but to escalate it to the board." Marcus hesitated. "And what if HR sides with Adrian? He's got connections everywhere, Evelyn. What makes you think they won't cover this up?" "Because," I replied firmly, "we won't give them the option. We'll go straight to the board if we have to. But first, we need to make sure every single detail is airtight. No loopholes, no room for doubt." Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly, gathering more evidence and refining our plan. Other members of the coalition joined in, contributing their expertise where needed. Sarah from legal helped draft a formal complaint, while Daniel in accounting cross-checked Marcus's findings to ensure accuracy. Slowly but surely, we built a dossier so damning that even Adrian's charm wouldn't save him. But as the days passed, tension mounted. Adrian seemed to sense something was off. His paranoia grew, manifesting in increasingly erratic behavior. He called impromptu meetings to grill employees about productivity metrics, accused random team members of disloyalty, and scrutinized expense reports with obsessive precision. The atmosphere in the office became suffocating, a pressure cooker ready to explode. Then came the moment we'd been dreading and preparing for. One afternoon, as I returned from lunch, I noticed Adrian lingering near my desk, scrolling through papers left casually on its surface. My stomach dropped. Had he found something? Did he suspect? Looking for something? I asked coolly, setting my bag down. He turned, startled, then quickly masked his surprise with a smirk. "Just making sure everyone's pulling their weight around here," he said, his tone dripping with insincerity. "Wouldn't want anyone slacking off, now would we?" I forced a smile, though my pulse pounded in my ears. Of course not. Hard work is what keeps this company running. For a fleeting second, his eyes narrowed, searching mine for any sign of weakness. But I held steady, refusing to let him see the fear bubbling beneath the surface. Finally, he straightened, giving me a curt nod before walking away. As soon as he was out of sight, I exhaled sharply, my hands trembling slightly. That night, I met with the coalition once again. "We can't wait any longer," I told them, my voice low but urgent. "If Adrian gets wind of what we're doing, he'll destroy everything. We need to act now." Everyone nodded grimly, understanding the gravity of the situation. Tomorrow, we decided we'd submit our findings directly to the board, anonymously for now. It was a calculated risk, but one we had to take. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, clutching a USB drive containing the dossier. My palms were sweaty as I slipped it into the designated drop box outside the boardroom, marked confidential, urgent. Once it was done, I stepped back, feeling both relief and dread wash over me. There was no turning back now. As the hours ticked by, rumors began swirling. Whispers echoed through the halls, speculating about mysterious meetings behind closed doors. By mid-afternoon, word spread that the board had convened unexpectedly, a rare occurrence that sent shockwaves through the company. Employees exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what was happening, but sensing that something monumental was unfolding. Adrian, however, remained oblivious, at least outwardly. He strutted through the office as usual, barking orders and demanding updates on projects. But I noticed subtle cracks in his composure, the way his jaw clenched when approached by certain executives, the slight hesitation in his step as he passed the boardroom. By the end of the day, the tension was unbearable. Just as I was packing up to leave, an email popped up on my screen. "All staff meeting, 9 a.m. tomorrow." My heart sank. Whatever happened next, it would happen publicly. That night, sleep eluded me. I replayed every possible scenario in my head, wondering how Adrian would respond when confronted. Would he deny everything? Try to shift blame onto others? Or worse, retaliate against those he suspected of betrayal? When I walked into the office the following morning, the air was thick with anticipation. Every seat in the auditorium was filled, and murmurs rippled through the crowd like waves. Adrian strode in last, flanked by two board members whose expressions gave nothing away. He glanced around the room, his usual confidence faltering for the briefest moment before he plastered on a practiced smile. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice carrying across the silent space. "I'm sure you're all wondering why we're gathered here today." As he spoke, I braced myself for whatever came next. For months, I dreamed of this moment, the reckoning, the vindication. But now that it was here, I realized it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every person Adrian had belittled, undermined, or manipulated. It was about restoring trust, rebuilding morale, and proving that integrity still mattered. And yet, as Adrian continued speaking, something unexpected happened. Instead of outright denial or deflection, he sounded defensive, uncertain. His words lacked their usual swagger, replaced by a cautiousness that hinted at cracks beneath the surface. Whatever the outcome, I knew one thing for certain: the fight wasn't over. Not yet. As Adrian faltered under the weight of unspoken accusations, the board stepped in. They announced an internal investigation, urging anyone with information to come forward. The room erupted into murmurs as Adrian's facade finally crumbled. In the weeks that followed, the truth came to light. Adrian was removed from his position, and the company began to heal. I stood alongside my colleagues, no longer afraid, but empowered by what we'd achieved together. Justice had been served, not just for me, but for everyone who had ever felt powerless. And as I walked out of that auditorium, head held high, I realized something. Strength isn't about never feeling fear, it's about facing it anyway. And sometimes, standing up doesn't just change your life, it changes everything.